Ever wondered how a dog's nose could rescue an endangered species? In Madagascar's Masoala, an invasive civet threatens a unique carnivore.
And yes, we are AI host, but the mission is real. Join our pack as we track a predator to save the Falanouc.
In the next few minutes, we'll explain how scent detection dogs can find invasive civets and how humane relocation could give an overlooked species a fighting chance. Before we dive deeper, let's clear the elephant in the room. Yes, these faces are digital. Using AI hosts lets our tiny but mighty team bring you more conservation stories without burning out.
Here's the thesis. An invasive carnivore, the small Indian civet, is outcompeting a vulnerable Malagasy species. By combining detection dogs with humane relocation, we can tip the scales back toward the Falanouc.
The small Indian civet, locally called the jabati, was introduced to Madagascar centuries ago, possibly by traders. Today, it roams the rainforests and villages of Masoala and Makira, making it the only non-native carnivore recorded there. In its native Asian range, it's just another predator, but here, it competes with animals that evolved in isolation. Camera traps show these civets thrive near disturbed habitats and human settlements. They have a broad diet: rodents, birds, frogs, and insects, so they are opportunistic and can disrupt food webs. Researchers have linked civet presence to reduced occupancy of native carnivores, like the Malagasy civet. In short, this invader is edging out creatures that never had to compete with it before.
Shadows of Masoala lives the Falanouc, a mongoose-like carnivore with no anal scent glands and specialized teeth for eating worms, snails, and larvae. This quiet insectivore, also called Falanouca, is found only in Madagascar and is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. It produces just one offspring at a time and is already suffering from habitat loss and hunting. When small Indian civets invade the same lowland rainforests, the Falanouc must compete for space and food, and may even be pushed out. Because these shy animals are so cryptic that researchers mostly detect them with camera traps, every individual matters. Reducing civet pressure could give this tiny but mighty species a chance to recover.
So, what do you do when an invasive predator is tough to see and impossible to chase? You get creative. Villagers around Masoala have hunted the jabati for food, but they're also worried about their chickens. The Civet Sweet Plan uses trained scent detection dogs to sniff out nocturnal civets deep in the rainforest. Once a dog signals, live traps baited with fish or chicken would catch the civet, and then rangers would move it out of Falanouc territory. It's a compassionate approach that protects native wildlife without killing the invaders. But can it work in dense, wet terrain full of leeches and steep slopes? That's the puzzle we're about to unpack.
Let's start by grounding our claims. Camera trap surveys across Masoala and Makira recorded 7 carnivore species, and the small Indian civet was the only non-native one. In disturbed habitats near villages, civets were more abundant, while native carnivores like the Malagasy civet and Falanouc declined. One study found that exotic civets were linked to reduced occupancy of Falanouca, where both occurred. That's a fancy way of saying the invader pushes the native out. Critics sometimes claim civets help control rodents, but their diet also includes birds, frogs, and insects. Removing them might increase rats, so we need to watch for unintended consequences. For sources and data, pause the video and check the panel on the left. So, how do we find these civets? Trained scent detection dogs have been used worldwide to locate invasive species, from snakes to plants. Dogs have 100,000 times the olfactory receptors of humans, meaning they can detect the faintest civet scent under thick vegetation. Studies show that dogs can cover more ground and find more targets than human searchers. In practice, handlers use bedding or scat from a civet to train the dog to recognize the scent. When the dog sits or barks quietly at a spot, that tells the team, civets smell here. Myth: detection dogs will harm wildlife. In reality, They are trained to ignore non-target species and kept on leash. With the right protocols, they become living sensors that respect the forest. Once a civet is detected, the next step is capture and relocation. Humane cage traps baited with fish, chicken, or civet musk are set near the scent hotspot. These traps allow the animal to enter but not injure itself. Rangers check them at least once or twice a day to release non-target captures. When a civet is caught, field staff cover the cage to calm it, then transport it to a relocation site. Options include wildlife centers or controlled fenced habitats. Repatriation to Asia is unlikely. The emphasis is on humane treatment and avoiding new invasive populations. Skeptics ask if we should just eliminate the civets. Ethically, humane relocation gains more community support, but it's not easy. Finally, a civet sweep isn't a one-and-done event. After relocation, teams must verify that no civet scent remains. Dog sweeps and camera traps are repeated over weeks and months to catch stragglers. Because civets reproduce quickly, females can have 2 to 5 young a year. Missing a pair could lead to a rebound. The operation must also factor in Masoala's heavy rains and rugged terrain. Obtain permits from Madagascar National Parks and the Ministry of Environment, and engage local communities who may see civets as bushmeat. It also needs sustained funding and partnerships with groups like WCS, MNP, and WD4C. As we'll explore next, those social, logistical, and ecological constraints are as important as the biology.
Debate this. If we can find and move civets, do we risk messing with a fragile balance? I believe humane relocation is a compassionate way to undo a human mistake. Yes, removing a predator could let rats boom, but research suggests civets harm more native species than they help. Dogs add a dash of heroism. Who doesn't want to cheer for a Labrador saving Madagascar? And working with local communities means we're not imposing, but collaborating. Remember, our pack thrives on creative solutions. So I'm curious, what would you try if you were in charge? Pause to answer in the poll popping up now, and drop your idea in the comments.
Quick reality check. We're talking about bringing foreign dogs into a tropical rainforest, navigating permits, weather, and community expectations. Scent detection dogs could miss latrines after heavy rain. Civets might be eaten by villagers before we relocate them. And if we drop civets into a fenced reserve, how do we ensure they don't escape and cause a new invasion? These are genuine caveats we must address. Still, the proposed pilot could teach us what works, and the only way to find out is to test it responsibly. I'd love to see field data from you. If you've ever used detection dogs or live traps, share your notes and locations in the comments.
Let's walk through the sweep. First comes detection. Finding a nocturnal civet in dense forest is like finding a needle in a haystack. That's why the plan recruits high-energy breeds like Labradors, Malinois, or Spaniels that love to work. Trainers imprint the dogs with civet scent using scat or bedding from zoo animals, rewarding them when they zero in on the smell. In Masoala, handlers would lead the dogs along transects near forest edges, camps, or riverbanks where civets are most active. When a dog catches the scent, it sits or barks to signal "civet here." Because civets are nocturnal, morning sweeps capitalize on fresh scent trails. The dogs might home in on latrines or paths, and local guides who know where civets raid chicken coops help focus the search. Each team includes a handler, an assistant, and at least one community member, so that knowledge is shared. The dogs stay leashed and are trained to ignore lemurs, tenrecs, and other native animals. This requires months of training and constant reinforcement, but it ensures the sweep doesn't disturb wildlife. With canines as living sensors and humans holding the leash, we stand a chance of finding animals that eyes can't see.
Phase 2 is capture and relocation. Humane cage traps are baited with irresistible smells like fish, chicken, or civet musk. They're placed near the spot where a dog indicated activity, along trails or at latrines. These traps are designed to let the civet enter, but not injure itself. There's room to turn around and ventilation to keep it calm. Rangers set traps in late afternoon, then check them early the next morning because civets are nocturnal. Every trap is checked at least once or twice a day to release non-target captures like Malagasy civets or mongooses. When a civet is caught, field staff approach quietly, cover the trap with a blanket to darken it and reduce stress, then transport the animal to a holding facility outside Falanouc habitat. Options for relocation include sanctuaries, zoos, or fenced reserves. Each option has pros and cons. Captivity prevents escape, but limits natural behavior. Fenced reserves require constant monitoring to avoid new invasions. Repatriation to Asia is theoretically possible, but unlikely. Throughout, the guiding principle is compassion. No killing, minimal handling, veterinary care, and cool transport. The success of Phase 2 depends on logistics and the willingness of authorities and communities.
Now, let's be candid about the obstacles. Masoala is among the wettest places in Madagascar. During cyclone months, trails become rivers, scent trails wash away, and working conditions become dangerous. Choosing the late dry season is key, so dogs can track civets just before they breed. Getting to the site is half the battle. There are few roads, so teams must travel by boat, then hike steep, muddy slopes through leech-filled jungle. Carrying traps, bait, and gear requires porters and pack animals. Dogs need protective booties, tick collars, and acclimatization. Permits are another hurdle. You need approval from Madagascar national parks to work in Masoala, import permits for foreign dogs, and clearance from the Ministry of Environment to trap and transport wild animals. Then there's community engagement. Villagers hunt civets for bushmeat, but they also worry about civets raiding chickens and gardens. Respecting local beliefs and offering benefits, hiring guides, training locals, and sharing data build trust. Without community support, the sweep could fail. So this isn't just biology. It's logistics, law, and hearts and minds.
Field notes and partnerships make or break a civet sweep. Decades of camera trap surveys by the Wildlife Conservation Society and researchers like Dr. Zach Ferris tell us where civets, Falanoucs, and Falanoucas overlap. Those data suggest starting sweeps at the forest edge where civets are most active and working inward. Local names, Jabadi for the civet, Falanouca for the Falanouc, help communicate with villagers. And elders' stories about mysterious Fitoati remind us how rich local lore is. For partners, Madagascar National Parks brings terrain expertise, while international groups like Working Dogs for Conservation can provide trained dogs and handlers. The Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust and regional zoos could house relocated civets. The San Diego Zoo and the University of Antananarivo might help with monitoring. Getting Malagasy students involved builds local capacity. Success isn't just about numbers, it's about telling stories. Imagine a follow-up video showing Falanoucs snuffling freely, a map of viewer-submitted field notes, and kids in Masoala proudly helping protect their forest. So what can you, sitting at your screen, actually do? First, support organizations like the Wildlife Conservation Society, Working Dogs for Conservation, and Madagascar National Parks. Your donations help train scent detection dogs, pay local guides, and fund humane relocation facilities. Second, never release pets or exotic animals into the wild. Invasive species often start with one careless act. Third, advocate for policies that prioritize humane invasive species management and community engagement. Send an email to your representative, sign petitions, vote for science-based conservation. Share this video with someone who loves dogs or wildlife. And if you live near a forest plagued by invasives, consider joining or forming a detection dog program. We'll link resources in the description. Finally, share your own field observations or stories in the comments so our community map grows. Collective small actions can ripple into meaningful change.
Before we wrap, let me howl for a moment. Our pack just hit a new milestone. Thanks to your curiosity and compassion, we've grown by 15% this month, and that means more eyes on overlooked species like the Falanouc. You make it possible for our tiny but mighty team to research and share these stories, and we're grateful. I want to shout out superfan @Musketeer Chris for suggesting a civet sweep using scent dogs. This episode is for you. We also appreciate @FractAlchemist for asking about our AI avatars. Transparency matters, and we'll keep pointing you to the sources panel. Our howl for Dionysus Reel is coming up, so record a 5-second howl and tag us before Friday. We want your voices, literally, in our next community video. And leave a comment telling us your favorite underrated animal. We might feature it and count 3 key facts on our fingers. We promise to keep the gratitude micro-acknowledgements coming. So if you're new here, smash the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss an adventure.
To close, remember that this pilot isn't just about civets and Falanoucs. It's a case study in how we manage the unintended consequences of human actions. Invasive species are a global problem, and humane solutions demand science, compassion, and participation. Whether you're a scientist, a dog trainer, a student, or a viewer, you're part of the solution by staying informed and engaged. For more details, see our pinned comment with all sources and timestamps, and open the Sources Notes panel whenever you need to verify a claim. If you have a field note, a photo, or a question, drop it below. I read them all. Next episode will unravel another conservation mystery, so get ready. Take a walk in your local park and notice the creatures around you. Small connections build big change. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep believing that together we can tip the scales back in favor of wildness. Community science doesn't stop here. If you live near Masoala or anywhere with invasive species, consider submitting observations to local researchers. Use apps like iNaturalist, and if you have a detection dog story, tag us so we can compile a global map. Please include GPS coordinates, dates, and what species you observed. But remember to respect local laws and permits and never trespass. We're also planning a live Q&A about humane invasive species management with experts from Working Dogs for Conservation and Madagascar National Parks. Comment your questions now and vote on what time works best. I'll compile them and we'll answer as many as we can. For our next episode, we'll journey to Tasmania to investigate how returning the Tassie devil to mainland Australia is reshaping ecosystems. Think predators, disease, and hope. Expect surprising data, myth-busting, and another lively debate. Until then, stay curious, collect your field notes, watch for a poll in the Community tab, and keep an eye on the Sources panel.
Thanks for sticking with us through this deep dive into Masoala. We know your time is precious, and we hope you learned something new about invasive species and how creative solutions like scent detection dogs can help. Let's recap in one sentence. Invasive civets are pushing out the Falanouc, but dogs and humane relocation offer a path to balance. Don't forget to open the Sources Notes panel to verify everything we said. Recommend our playlist on overlooked carnivores. We've curated it to take you on a journey from Madagascar to the Arctic, with each episode ending on a hopeful action. If you're on mobile, check the description for links. Stick around for the end card to click, and don't forget to drop a howl in the comments. Remember, every view, comment, and share helps protect animals like the Falanouc. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next chapter. We post new stories every week, and the algorithm loves engagement in the first hour, so drop your thoughts right away. While you're here, check out our Community tab for polls and upcoming live stream announcements. If you're looking for more, we've got a special video on AI avatars and how we create these episodes. It's linked on screen now. Tell 2 friends about the Falanouc and the civet sweep. You never know who might become our next conservationist. Also, scroll down for our pinned comment with all sources, links to NGOs, and ways to donate. We commit to transparency. And if you want to get extra involved, join our Patreon or volunteer via the organizations we mention. Thanks again for being part of the pack. Until next time, keep your curiosity wild and your compassion loud.